on our current affairs discussion. Let us start first article with the mains article, which is related to the Constitutional Amendment Bill. It is 130th Constitutional Amendment Bill, and it is a little controversial bill. Basically, it talks about the removal of the chief minister, ministers, prime ministers from their office if they have been arrested for a particular time and beyond that. So that's why there are some controversy regarding this. We'll see from the legal, constitutional, as well as the what are those controversies in this particular article. So what is the context? You got the idea. That is the recently introduced 130th Amendment Bill, which is going to amend Article 75, Article 164 and Article 239, especially with respect to the removal of ministers and the chief minister and prime ministers. Okay, so let's discuss comprehensively this particular article. See, the first important thing we have to discuss, that is the 130th Constitutional Amendment Bill. This is the article. Okay, so what is the first thing you need to know? You need to know the features, right? Features of the act. Features of the bill. See, as I said, like that this bill is intended for the removal of those chief minister, and the prime minister. Now the reason is why the requirement of this such kind of bill. See, the key requirement of such kind of bill is the scenario that many times what was happening is that the chief ministers or the minister who are in the jail for a serious crimes also are performing their duty as the chief minister or the minister or the prime minister performing their duties from the jail. So this is against the constitutional morality, against the political morality, and it actually degrades the trust of the people upon the institutions, right? So to curb these kind of practices, to remove these kind of practices, actually this legalization of removal of chief minister and the prime minister has been thought of. So this particular the thing which you got to know is actually the background of 130th Constitutional Amendment Bill. So what are the key features has been included under the bill? See, key features. Feature number 1 is it is going to amend 3 Article 75, which is related to the Union Council of Ministers, Article 164, which is related to the State Council of Ministers, and Article 239 AA, which is related to contains the provision related to the special administration of National Capital Territory of Delhi. These 3 articles are going to be amended under this under the provision of this this bill. Now, what is the criteria for the removal? See, if a minister is arrested or detained for 30 consecutive days. This point is very important. That's why I am going slow here. This point is very important because this is the key point. See, 30 consecutive days if arrested or detained, then for an offense which actually requires 5 or more years, for an offense with punishment of 5 equal to or more than 5 years. So if such crime is there in which the maximum the punishment is 5 years or more than 5 years, and if the minister has been arrested for 30 consecutive days, then what will happen? On the 31st day or that minister will automatically cease to be the minister. Or what can happen is that the prime minister can advise the president to remove that minister. Understood? So this will happen like if this is the condition, then either the minister cease to be minister, or prime minister, or the what you can say that the president can remove them. Right? So this is the provision. We have to see this very carefully, and this applies for the minister, prime minister, as well as the chief minister, right? Now the important thing here is that what are the issues here? What are the issues here? See, before going to the issues written in the article, actually Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, while discussing in the Constituent Assembly, he said like there should not be the substantive provision with respect to the removal of the chief minister on the ground of the arrest or detention, because it may lead to the political misuse. So what he said is that there should be the use of wisdom as well as the morality, the parliamentary and the constitutional morality, that if minister is getting arrested, and that minister should resign following their conscience. So that was the expectation. However, that was not followed every time, but still he was not in favor of putting some legal measure for the removal of the prime minister, minister, as well as the chief minister. So that was the view of Dr. Ambedkar. However, in this particular article, the writer talks about the two major issues, two contentious issues. Two contentious issues are there. Issue number one is the discretionary nature of arrest. First is discretionary nature of arrest. Means what? See, as you know that many times the police can be manipulated by the ruling party, and here the police get the discretionary power to arrest a particular minister or the person who is holding the public office. So this discretionary power can be misused. So that is the first issue. The second issue is related to the process of authorizing detention. Process of authorizing detention by courts. These are the two major issues. In what process, how much time has been given, and how much time is there with respect to the provision of the laws, that is the another issue. See, here the first point you must have understood. The first point is related to the discretionary power of the police. So the police misuse for the political gain is the first point here. Okay. The second thing is that the contentious issue number two is that, see, what is the provision as per the law? 30 days criteria has been given. Now, to gain the bail, the default bail, which is called as a default bail. What is the default bail? Default bail means, suppose the police and the judiciary has not able to complete the prosecution, the prosecution has not been completed within 60 days to 90 days. The time period is there. If the investigation is not completed for 60 to 90 days, this for the different offenses, the different days has been decided, 60 to 90 days, then what happens is that the accused will by default be released on the bail. So here the criteria is 60 to 90 days. That means if a person have been detained for 60 days, but the investigation could not be completed within that particular time, then what will happen? That the person will automatically, by default is having the right to get the bail. However, here see the criteria has been defined in the bill is 30 days. That means if 30 days also investigation has not been completed against the minister, then also that point of time the minister won't be able to get the by default of bail. right? So what writer is saying is here is that 30 days here in this bill and what is there in the BNSS is not in harmony. There is a conflict. I mean, there is no sync between these two. Either this should be 60 days or should be in line with this BNS, but it is not. So that can be misused. That is the argument of the writer here. Okay, so these two are the major issues with respect to the law. However, there is another issue which is related to constitutional and ethical implication. Constitutional and ethical implication. See, as I said earlier also, what Dr. Ambedkar said, he believed on the conscience of the ministers as well as the office bearers. However, here the law is getting more getting more power to actually misused, can be misused. And sorry. And some of the law are having the very difficult, the provisions which are very difficult to get bail, or sometimes the accused become liable to prove that they are not guilty. In the normal circumstances, if you are found, if you have been arrested, now the police have to prove whether the accusation made against you is right or wrong. However, in this case, some of the cases like UAPA or cases like the PMLA, this is related to money laundering, Prevention of Money Laundering Act. This is related to the Unlawful Activity Prevention Act. In such kind of act, what happens is that the burden of proof goes to the accused. That is, now accused have to prove that they are not guilty. So such kind of contentious issues are there in these laws, and these laws can be used for the detention of the ministers. And that is the fear of the writer, that these kind of acts can be misused for the political reason, and it would be very difficult to get the bail from those detention, right? So that's why this can create a political issue as well as the constitutional morality can be harmed here, right? So what in the conclusion says that yes, there is requirement that in conclusion what it says it says that yes, there is requirement that there is requirement of the political morality in the Indian democracy. However, it should be based on the conscience. It should be based on the people's force. That if a person is getting detained or getting arrested, it should go to the election. It should go to the ground of the people, and the electors should punish that particular person. Otherwise, there is high chance that such kind of law can be misused and can destroy the spirit of the parliamentary democracy in India. So that is the thing what the writer says in the conclusion. Okay, let's move to the next article. The second important article is related to the climate finance. See, this climate finance is important from the environment point of view. From the environment point of view, it is very important. Let me give you a brief background of the issue. See, historically, through the industrial revolution, the developed country, that is the Western countries, actually emitted a lot of carbon dioxide in the history. Now, this emission of the huge amount of the carbon dioxide actually responsible for the present global warming, which is leading to the climate change. However, now under the COP, that is the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, under this, both the developed countries as well as the developing countries are responsible to mitigate the impact of climate change, because it is both developed countries and developing countries are facing, as a earth we are facing the problem of the climate change. So both are getting the responsibility. However, here comes the issue of equity. How, like countries like India, who have contributed very less in the global warming by releasing very less carbon dioxide compared to the developed countries like USA, UK and others, how the countries like India should pay equally like the other country. Additionally, the countries like India which are developing do not have that much resources to adopt the clean and green technologies. Also, they do not have that much technology also. So what is the solution proposed is that there should be the common but differentiated responsibility. That means every country have the common responsibility to mitigate the climate change. However, there are differential responsibility. That means those countries which are developed, who have contributed through the emission of the carbon, should pay more, contribute more in the movement of the green technology compared to those who are developing, like India, like South Africa and others, right? So that is the idea. And to fulfill this idea, there is the idea of climate finance. Climate finance. What will happen is that the developed country will pay to developing country certain fund which is called as the climate fund. Now let's discuss this climate finance. The first thing what we have to understand here is that what is the current issue regarding the climate finance. See, the core issue is with respect to the how much funding should be there. As per the various report, the current report also says that there is the requirement of almost $3 trillion, what you say, 310 billion dollar by 2035 is the required. The developed countries should pay this much. However, the current one is only $26 billion. So there is a huge gap. Almost around 12 times gap is present with respect to this amount of funding. Second issue is that the nature of funding. What is the nature of climate funding? Many times what the developed countries are giving, they are giving in the form of debt, that is a loan which has to be repaid. But the actual envisioned idea was that these developed countries should give the grants to the developing countries to move towards the green technology. But they are giving most of the time in the form of debt, right? So that is also one of the issue. The third issue is that the nature and what type of climate finance. See, there are three types of climate finance. One is the adaptation fund, second is the mitigation fund, third is the loss and damage fund. Now what is happening is that most of the funding is related to the mitigation fund. Mitigation means to reduce the carbon dioxide emission and other greenhouse gas emission. Adaptation fund means the funding which is given to adapt to the changing climate. For example, climate resilient agriculture. We are changing our agriculture such a way that which is adaptable to the changed temperature. The third is the loss and damage. That is something which has lost or damage which cannot be adapted to. So to mitigate such loss and damage, I mean that's kind of compensation should be provided by the developed country to the developing country. So what is the issue happening is that mostly the mitigation fund is being prioritized. However, the adaptation fund has been given less importance. So these are the three major issues with respect to the climate finance. That is, one is that how much they should pay, what should be the nature of climate financing, what should be the type of climate finance should be provided. Now these issues are going on between the developing country and developed country under the COP. So in COP 29, there is a the different country came to the decision related to the climate finance, and they called it the new collective quantified goal. See, before this COP 29, there was COP 21. This is also famously known as the Paris Agreement. Here they decided that every year they will contribute $100 billion per year. Now what happened? In a new collective quantified goal, that has been increased to $300 billion. But the developing country were demanding $1.3 trillion per year. But developed country did not agree with it, and they stayed with this $300 billion per year by 2035. Okay, so this is the new collective quantified goal. As per the current report, what the report says that it's the running on the empty report. Basically, it's inadequate, it's not sufficient, and mostly it is going in the form of the debt, and that is the problem here, right? So in conclusion, what we can say is that to mitigate the climate change, to fight this climate change, developed country has to take more responsibility in terms of providing the finance to the developing country, so that the developing country can also move towards the development by along with the mitigating the climate change and its impacts. Let's move to the next important article. The third article is related to the mutual fund. You must have heard this sentence like the mutual funds are subjected to market risk, invest carefully. Yeah, we are talking about that mutual fund. What is the context? The context is that the SEBI, that is the Security and Exchange Board of India. Now the SEBI has released the notification of around 120 posts. You can apply for that. Check to the SEBI website, or you can check in our Telegram group also. There also the official web notification of the SEBI we have provided in the group. Okay. Now SEBI has proposed major changes to the mutual fund regulation so that the investors' cost can be reduced and it can be made more simpler. So let's understand this concept of the mutual fund first. What is mutual fund? The concept. See, there are two things here. See, generally what happens, suppose you want to invest in some shares, let's say, or bond or something, some other financial instrument. You want to purchase the share of a particular company A. However, two things here, in order to invest in the A, you need two things. One is that the fund, which should be sufficient in order to purchase the shares. Second is that you should have the knowledge, so that you get to know like in which company you should invest, how much you should invest, which kind of financial instrument you should invest, right? These two things are required, and these two are not easy to do. You may not have the sufficient amount to invest in the shares where you want, or you may not have the sufficient knowledge to know that where you should invest. So that point comes this mutual fund. So here what happens is that the different investors, investor 1, investor 2, investor 3, they pull their money and they give to the mutual fund. Mutual fund is nothing but the trust which collects the money from the different investors. Then they will invest in the different financial instrument, maybe share, maybe bond, maybe gold, or anything. These investments can be the money market investment or the capital market investment. Money market means less than 1 year of investment. Less than 1 year of investment. For example, treasury bill. Capital market instrument like bonds, government bonds, long-term bonds, or it can be share. So these are this money can be invested in the mutual fund and the capital market fund. This is money market fund or the capital market fund. Now what happens is that whatever revenue this mutual fund company will generate, they will keep some share with them and return it to the investors as per their investment, whatever is the profit or loss what these investors have to face. So this is the idea of the mutual fund. Okay. Who regulates? As you understood, the regulation is done by the SEBI. Okay, SEBI regulates it. Let's go to the next important article, which is related to the helium waves. This article is important from prelims point of view, science and technology. Asking question on in the mains is very difficult. It's very difficult that the question can be asked from the helium waves. But in the prelims, we can expect one question with respect to the science and technology. See, let's understand the background of this topic, and then we'll go to the what are the news and the what is the properties, what are the helium waves and those things. Have you seen the ocean waves? Have you seen the ocean waves? Definitely you must have seen it, right? So these are the normal waves which have the trough and the crest, and it moves in a particular direction and we can see it. What if I say that these kind of waves, similar kind of waves, can be generated in a small microchip, very small level? Can we develop that? Yes, scientists have done that. they have generated waves like feature, which like the ocean waves, they have developed such phenomena in microscopic chip, and they have created this remarkable invention from the University of Queensland. Now what this helium wave is, and what is going to be the its properties, and what can be its utility. You understood the context, right? Let's move to the what the helium helium wave is. See, earlier, if scientist has to study the waves and these kind of properties of the waves, different waves, they have to create large water body, they have to create large water source, and there they used to experiment. Now similar environment can be created in a microchip. How? Using the quantum technology. How they have done that? They have experimented by putting there is one thin film containing the helium film. This is containing helium, and this was heated by laser. Now this laser heats is at the very high temperature. Then what happens is that here there is the generation of waves because of one effect which is called as the fountain effect. What it is? Fountain effect. What is fountain effect? Fountain effect, generally what happens is that the waves generally move away from the heat. If this is heat, waves will move away from it. However, in this case, the wave moves towards the heat, and that is the difference basically compared to the normal waves. So because of this, what happens is that fountain effect takes place, and there is the generation of the waves which are at the ultra high speed. Speed is very high, and these are at the nanoscale. Ultra high speed and the nanoscale, right? How this is achieved? You understood it. What are the properties of this particular helium wave? The first property is that zero viscosity. What is viscosity? This is the resistance which is felt by the liquid, resistance to flow, right? So that is called as the viscosity. Zero viscosity means it can flow without any resistance. And how it is generated? At the absolute zero. Absolute zero means minus 273 degrees Celsius or 0 Kelvin. The second property is the fountain effect, which we had explained. Fountain effect. Third property is the quantum motion. That means it generates ultra high speed, and very small waves, very small waves. Okay, so these are the properties of the helium waves. Okay, some other features or observation made by the scientists through this experiment is that these waves sometimes suddenly gets the high steep, then again low. Sudden high steep is received. Second thing is that single wave split into multiple waves. That is the second feature, right? Then what are the utility of these waves? The first utility is the tsunami prediction. Second, in the communication system, to study like how the waves flow. Third, quantum physics, understanding of quantum physics. Okay, these are the three utilities, and especially the features like the high precision, high speed makes it very useful to study the quantum physics, tsunami prediction, as well as the communication system. This was the article related to the helium waves. Let's move to the next important article, which is related to advanced chemistry cell. Before going into the topic, let's understand what is the context, why it is in the news. It is in the news because of the China have complained against India in the WTO by saying that India is providing the production linked incentive in the advanced chemistry cell, which is giving the Indian production unfair advantage with respect to the trade. That is the claim of the China. For us, what is important? For us, this concept of ACC is important. That is advanced chemistry cell. advanced chemistry cell. See, these are the secondary electrochemical storage system, energy storage technologies. Secondary, why secondary? Because it stores and again provides the power or the electricity. Suppose this is the solar power, this is the solar, okay. Now this solar will generate electricity and it will be the stored in the batteries, it will be stored in the battery, and then this will again be used at the household to light some as the power. So this is the primary source, this is the secondary, and when the stored electricity power is used for our application, it is called as the secondary power source, okay. And so these are rechargeable. Once it's done, if we provide the power, these are recharged. So those are the features, you know it. Next is what are the components of a cell, this advanced chemistry cell. It depends on the type of cell. However, most commonly it have an electrolyte which helps in the transfer of electrons and the ions. Second, it have the two electrode. One is called as the cathode, one is called as the anode. And these two are interlinked with each other. And these two are separated by an porous separator. This is separator. This is electrolyte. Right? So this is the typical cell and its component. There are different types of cell, as I mentioned. You must have heard about the lithium ion cell. This is battery. This is very popular. Second is the solid state battery. Solid state battery. See, lithium ion batteries are the liquid state. So it has certain limitation with respect to its power, the speed to which it recharge. However, the solid state batteries are having the more advanced features, more safe, less flammable, those things. Third is the sodium ion batteries are some advanced battery types. Application, you know, it is used in the electric vehicle, heavy duty transport, mobile phones, right? One of the major importance is that if we are producing the renewable energy, that can be stored in the battery, right? And then can be utilized. So for renewable energy success, storage in the batteries are important. The last important article today is the GI tag related to the lemon variety and the related to lemon variety. Two varieties are there: Indi variety, Indi lime, and second is the Pulyan Kudi lime. See, what question can be asked here? See, the context is that the APEDA have a first ever air shipment of GI tagged Indi lime and the Pulyan lime to United Kingdom. You understood the news. Now these two, you see this Indi Nimbu, that is Indi lime, and this the Pulyan lemon. What is important for us in this from our exam point of view? This can be asked in the prelims. First thing is that they can give the Indi Pulyan are what? Are they lime, mango, rice variety or something like that they can give. So what we need to know, this is lime variety. Second important thing is that these belong from which state? First, Indi belong from Karnataka. However, Pulyan belong from the Tamil Nadu. These two we have to remember. We don't have to remember much thing. These two only we have to remember. So this was today's discussion. Thank you so much for today's discussion. We'll meet in the next class.